I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I get the honor of introducing you to extraordinary women. And by extraordinary, I mean women who have stepped into their power, women who have said yes to their lives, women who've, taken a different route than maybe people thought they should have taken because they know they're here to make a difference. They know that this is the time for women emerging. And so I get to introduce them to you. And they are way showers, meaning they're not exceptions. They're going, there's a world of possibilities here, and you can step into that field and create. I do these every week. We're on all the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon, video on YouTube. Just look for Women Awakening with Cynthia James and subscribe. These women will inspire you, not a doubt in my mind. You can also go to cynthiajames.net. That's my website, and there's lots of gifts and resources there for you. So my guest today, I didn't meet in person until recently, but I felt like I knew her for years. Her name is Paige Davis. She has been working in the travel industry for almost 20 years. She spent much of her time as a marketing director at a large group travel company. And in 2019, she and her sister signed up for a tour that was designed specifically for women. And she started getting that she was passionate about the importance and the power of women's travel. So she spent the next few years kind of reminiscing about it because it was so meaningful. Well, there was a moment where she left that company, started her own company. There were some challenges, which we will talk about. But in early 2023, she was named President of AdventureWomen, a travel company designed by women for women. Founded in 1982 by Susan Eckert, AdventureWomen is based outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and that's where Paige lives. AdventureWomen operates over 60 trips each year in Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, Canada, the United States, and by the way, even Antarctica. So AdventureWomen, well, they believe that any kind of travel can be an adventure. Paige, welcome.
Thanks, Cynthia. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled that you're here, and I have a lot to talk about with your history, but first of all, how did you grow up? You probably didn't come on the planet going, oh, I'm going to be a travel expert.
No, not at all. And it's actually interesting because I was thinking about it, and I would say I come from a very unadventurous childhood. I grew up in New York and New Jersey. My parents worked very hard. Both of them were working. And back then in the 1980s, I just don't think people got the amount of vacation time that people get now. So, maybe, even in their 40s and 50s, they were only getting 2 weeks of vacation. So there just wasn't a lot of time to travel when I was growing up. So we mostly went to places where we could drive. So again, growing up in New York and New Jersey, we did DC, we went to Colonial Williamsburg. Once we went to Quebec City, which was very exotic for us. And so I'm the youngest of two children. I have a sister who's 3 years older than me. And you mentioned that we travel together. And on my mother's side, I'm the youngest of 6 grandchildren. And so my grandmother, who traveled quite a bit when she got older, decided that when each of her grandchildren turned 16, she wanted to gift them a trip to see the U.S. national parks. So again, my sister and I being the youngest, all my cousins went and did this trip. And then when it was our turn, my mother said, you know what, we're going to put in a little extra money and send them to Europe. And so first my sister went, and then 3 years later I went. So I was 16 years old, and I did what's called a teen tour for 5 weeks. And, we just saw all the major sites of Europe, Rome and Venice and London and Brussels and Amsterdam. And obviously this was completely life-changing for me. It must have been an absolute nightmare for the guides. I cannot imagine this group of 60 teenager going around on a bus in Europe, but it was amazing for me. So definitely gave me a lot of travel experience, such that when I got to college, I wanted to travel again. And I know today so many kids travel abroad. It wasn't as common, when we were going to college. And, it's so much easier now with technology, with cell phones and email. But I decided to study abroad in Australia for a semester. I wanted to go as far away as I could possibly go. And I think I was just a little bit clueless when I was there, because I didn't realize that at Easter, the school and the dorms and everything would just be shut down for a week. And I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. Here I was halfway around the world, really no easy way to contact my family, not a lot of money. And so I went to the Greyhound bus station, and I bought a ticket that would stop in 5 different cities in Australia. And I packed a backpack and I got on the bus. It's probably a $200 bus ticket, staying in hostels. And that's what I did for a week. I planned this tour by myself. Now, if I had email and had texting, I'm sure my parents would have been appalled and would have said, this is a really bad idea. Don't do that.
Yeah, but you were an adventurer even then.
Apparently. And I think I was pretty good at planning an itinerary too. I planned everything, where I was going to eat my meals and everything. So, both of those travel experiences just really, made a huge impression on me. And when I graduated college, I didn't go into travel immediately. I worked in publishing for a little while. And when I was in my late 20s, I got this job at this very large travel company. I started at the very bottom of that company, and I spent 17 years there, just working my way up.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to say. First of all, bravo to your family. My husband and I do something similar with our grandchildren. We do it as a motivation. If you get a certain GPA, you get to go to Europe with us.
I
And
love that.
and so I think it's such a great gift to show young people what it looks like to be in different cultures and different food experiences and stuff. And I love that you got on the bus. I think that was great. So, okay, so you became the marketing director. And so why did you want to market to people? What was important about that position?
So again, I just think the experience of travel, that company really focused on the combination of education and travel. And it focused on kind of an older demographic. And it was this idea that, just because you're finished with college, and, it's a lot of the older generations, again, they didn't get that chance to travel abroad, and maybe their jobs didn't afford them a lot of vacation time. So this was an opportunity we were giving people to travel around the world and learn. It was kind of a study abroad when you're older, which is honestly maybe a better time to study abroad, when you're really kind of in this place and you're ready to learn and you're not so focused on all the social dynamics and everything. So I just thought that was incredibly important to give people at any stage of life, at any age, this opportunity to see the world and learn new things and meet different people.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I don't even know why I had the travel bug when I was little, because we were poor and, it made no sense, but it was always in me. So I want to talk about, after this trip you had with your sister, and you had this longing, I'm going to call it a longing because it stayed. So you walked away from this director job and you started a company. What happened?
Right. So, yeah, so in 2019, I really wanted to go on a trip with my sister. We were trying to go on a trip together once a year. And my sister and I love each other deeply. We have some different interests and we have different travel styles. So it was very hard to settle on something. She happened to be going through a phase where she was very into hiking, and I was very excited about that. I'm very outdoorsy, very into sports. Um, and so we saw this trip to Utah, and it happened to be just for women. So it was, and we both said that seems really exciting and interesting to us. And so we traveled to Arches and Canyonlands National Parks for a week with this group of women. And, this was this group of women we had literally just met. And we just had these really deep conversations. And we made some raunchy jokes, and we weren't ashamed to ask each other for help. Nobody was embarrassed to say, can we just stop and use the restroom one more time? Nobody was ashamed to admit when they were tired. And, I just think everybody opens up to each other in a way that I think you usually only open up that way to very long time friends. And so what I learned more than anything on that trip, it's almost like it doesn't matter where you go. But travel just has this unbelievable power to bring people together, to build meaningful relationships, to break barriers of age and race and religion and, ethnicity, everything. And that women have really amazing stories. Some of them are stories of trauma and heartbreak, but there's also amazing stories of survival and strength. And when you travel with a group of women, you're just always going to meet women who have done incredible things, who have achieved great success, and also who have come back from incredible pain and loss. And that's what really unites us all. And so, yeah, so we went on that trip in 2019. I came back. I was still at that large travel company. I said, we have to do more of these trips. This was amazing. I experienced this. I'm all in on this. And they were all in on it too. It was very exciting. And then, of course, 2020 happened. Everyone knows. And obviously, the travel industry was one of the industries that was hit very, very hard right out of the gate. I mean, in January and February of 2020, we were seeing this coming. And so I had a lot of time to think and reminisce and think about that experience. As all the travel companies were canceling all their trips, it gave me time to think about what I might want to do next. And this was just this thing so I happened to be on the phone with a friend of mine who lives in Oregon. And I said, I would love to start a travel company for women. And she said, I'm getting out my pad and pen. Let's do it. And so we spent the next year kind of planning it out, making lists of everything we needed to do, thinking about the branding, thinking about marketing, thinking about what the first trips we would run were. And it was going to be really hard. We knew it was going to be really hard. But we were committed to it. We would have constant check-ins. Are you sure you're still in? Are you sure you're still in? I had to leave my job at the travel company because obviously it was a conflict of interest to start a travel company while I was working at a travel company. So I did leave the job. I took a different job that I knew was just going to be temporary. But it became too difficult. It became too difficult for me to juggle a job and do this on the side. And my friend who I was doing this with had a 1-year-old baby at home, and she was, at home with him all the time. And so that was a real strain on her. And so we said, you know what, let's just take a pause on this. And so we did. We took a little break on that. And a year later, I got a call from one of my former colleagues, and she said, there's this company, AdventureWomen, and they're looking for a new president, and I gave them your name. So it was a dream come true.
Well, isn't that interesting how the universe just intervened?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you all were thinking about starting this company and making plans and stuff, AdventureWomen didn't need a new president yet.
They did not. And they were on our list of possible competitors.
Well, so here's the thing that I love about what you're saying. There's something powerful about women coming together in a group. We bond instantly. No matter if it's travel or other things, we come into a space and there's an instant, I'm going to call it a field of love because I can't think of any other name, but it's like we open, we trust, we share, we support, we nurture. And so here you are now, president of Adventure Women, doing all of these trips. Tell me, what's the best thing about your job?
Um, I think, well, it's an amazing company for starters. And I just want to speak a little bit about, it's got this very long history. It was, as you said, it was founded in 1982, so over 40 years ago by this woman named Susan Eckert, who was an incredible pioneer in the world of women's adventure travel, a real visionary in this. And, many travel companies started the way this one started, which was just a person who was bringing some friends along with them on a trip. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And she also believed in these same things. She just thought this was so important in terms of building both confidence in women and building camaraderie between women. Unfortunately, Susan was diagnosed with cancer about 9 years ago. And, she did not want the company to fade out. She knew, she believed so strongly and passionately about it. And so she reached out to a longtime friend of hers who happened to be a travel industry icon by the name of Judy Wineland. And they were good friends. And she asked Judy for some advice on what she should do, if she knew of anybody who might be interested in buying the business. Judy has been in the travel business since 1978 when she started her first travel company. And she still owns a group of travel companies such as Thompson Safari, Thompson Family Adventures, and those she owns alongside her husband, Rick. But the interesting thing about Judy, she has two daughters, Erica and Nicole, who are wonderful young women. And she talked to them about this company, and her daughters said, Mom, this is like perfect for us. We should do this. We should buy this company. And so Judy and her two daughters bought the company in 2016. And that's also really special for me. Having my mother, was a hard worker. She had two daughters. I'm one of two daughters. And I think for everybody who works there, I think this is very meaningful for us to be a part of this family. And we very much feel that. And I think that carries over into all of the work we do. And I think that Adventure Women is a different kinds of travel company. We call ourselves a relationship company. And I think it all comes back to, the founding of the company and who owns the business, and that the relationships between us and our guests, the relationships between our guests, the relationship between our guests and the women they meet in all these countries around the world, that's what's most important to us.
Well, I just think it's so wonderful. And I think there's something magical about travel. I mean, you get away from your normal routine and you step into places where you get to explore. And I think to do that with women is amazing. So you're the president of this company. What's your private life?
What is my private life? Well, I'm fortunate to have an extraordinarily supportive husband named Tony. And I have a 13-year-old daughter. And, we were speaking about, young people traveling, and travel is something that's incredibly important to my family. And, we started taking our daughter traveling when she was very young. We tested out short trips, from the time she was 3 or 4. And now I think she's been to Europe 3 times. So we love it. Travel is incredibly important. And I think the other thing that is incredibly important that I wanted to speak about was, I think, the importance of self-care, and especially with women. And that I think travel is a part of self-care and getting that time away. And, I remember, I'm pretty sure it was the day after my daughter was born, my husband and I were sitting in the hospital. And I think we literally were like, what have we done? What has happened here? made this agreement, like, let's give each other time away from this. We each need time to take care of ourselves. My husband's a teacher, so when I was on maternity leave, he happened to be on summer break from school. So we took maternity leave together. And so we agreed we would each get, one day off a week and do what we needed to do. And so me working in the travel industry, that often means me going off and traveling and leaving my family behind. And that's really hard. And that's something that I want women to know, that it can be very, very hard, and it can be very, very frightening. But it's so rewarding. I'm also a runner, and sometimes runners say, I hate running, but I love having gone for a run. And I think travel is similar. I mean, nobody hates traveling. You can you can like traveling, but love having traveled. And so that's kind of that hurdle that I hope that women who might be fearful about traveling, women who might be fearful about taking some time away from their family or their jobs or whatever it is, you're not going to regret it. You're going to love having done it.
Yeah. What's incredible about what you just said is that there's a rejuvenation factor that happens when you travel. It feeds the soul, it feeds the mind. You get to experience new things, new people, new food, new ways of being. And the thing about it is, like, yes, it can be hard to move away from family and do something for yourself. But I feel like self-care has to be a priority for anybody. And, I personally always have a once a year retreat for me. And it's like I go take care of myself. I sometimes I go to a spa. It doesn't matter. It's just time for me to read and be still and not have responsibilities. So I think travel is a gift for self-care. And
Absolutely.
so, do you feel that you're in a place of work-life harmony or balance?
Um, I would say I am. It's something that I have to work really hard at. But I've always been the kind of person who, I've been fortunate in that I've almost always had jobs that I absolutely love. And so that always makes it easier. That makes it easier to get up in the morning. It makes it easy no matter how bad your commute is that day. It makes all of it easier. And so, yes, I love what I do, and I love my time away from what I do. And I have plenty of, hobbies on the side, and have time for my friends and my family. So yeah, it's all great.
Right. And what I love about what you're doing too is you are showing your daughter possibilities because the world is available.
Yes.
I just think that's great. How do people find you and Adventure Women?
So super easy. We are at adventurewomen.com.
Great. Great. And you're doing 60 trips a year. So ladies, I'm thinking there could be something there for you. I don't know, call
I
me
hope
crazy.
so.
So I have the same last question for every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening on the planet in this moment?
I would say, in addition to the self-care, which we already talked about, I don't want to talk about that again. So the other thing that I think is so important is for women to support each other. And I think this is much of what Adventure Women is about. I think because women have had to fight so hard for the things we have, I think there's sometimes a tendency to make it just as hard on the women around us. Like, I had to suffer, they will suffer too. And we need to change that. We need to fix that. And I do think these things are already getting so much better. I think there are better parental leave policies at work. Women are talking about health issues more. Equal pay is being discussed openly. but there's still a lot of ground to cover. And so I just feel like that's something to be mindful of at all times, in the workplace, out and about, just really supporting other women, showing empathy and kindness, and, just, offering a helping hand and mentorship, as we get older, looking down and bringing up other women as we grow.
I think that is so beautiful. And I too believe we need each other, and leaning into each other is a healing salve. So, Paige, thank you so much for being here and bringing your wisdom and your passion. Your face lights up when you talk about travel. And so it's a lovely thing. Thank you so much for being here.
It was wonderful being here. Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.
All right, ladies, I say the same last thing. This is the time of the woman. This is the time for us to shine, to step forward, to bring our gifts, to bring our talents, to bring our power to this planet, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that we have brought on the planet and those that are yet to be born. So whatever it is that lights you up, whatever it is you're passionate about, I say step into it, enjoy this life, and bring your gifts. We're waiting for you. Have an incredible time, and I'll see you next time.